Let's move on to segment 3. This week, we're calling it Coming and Going. And Cedric, we talked NBA free agency a little bit in our opening segment, but let's dive in a little bit more because, you know, we're hearing that the Lakers have put Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram out on the trading block. Kyrie has opted out, becoming a free agent, which nobody's really surprised about, but sounds like Boston is actually continuing its pursuit of Anthony Davis, even as he says he wants to go to the coast, either New York or LA. I guess Boston is also the coast, but you know what I mean. How is all this going to factor out? I mean, these are some of the most storied franchises in all of the NBA. I mean, what if Anthony Davis ends up going to Boston? Is there a chance Kyrie says, wait, never mind, I'll stay here, let's see how this goes? I mean, are all these things intertwined in your mind?
Absolutely, but I'm going to tell you, I think the marriage between Kyrie Irving and the Boston Celtics was rocky at best.
Yeah.
That was a dysfunctional locker room, and I think Kyrie wanted out of there at midseason when they were losing. So Kyrie Irving's going to end up either with the Brooklyn Nets or with the Los Angeles Lakers, I think, or with the Knicks. I think that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in Madison Square Garden would be great, but like we just said, Kevin Durant may not play next year according to NBC Sports. So that kind of throws a wrench into it. Whomever gets Kyrie Irving is going to get him with the knowledge that if they're going to land KD, they're probably going to have to give him $30 million to sit and not do anything next year. The Golden State can pay him $38 million even if he doesn't play. So I think that Anthony Davis is going to end up with the Lakers. I think that they did a really bad job of selling themselves to him, just like they did with LaMarcus Aldridge when they were courting him. They didn't do a very good job. That Laker front office is in tatters. Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka aren't the most respected management duo in the league. So if I'm Anthony Davis, and I don't know if this is sexy enough for him, Jen, I would go to the Los Angeles Clippers. The Los Angeles Clippers have the best coach in the league, not named Greg Popovich, and Doc Rivers. He's a great coach. They won 45 games last season. They're only the 8th team in NBA history to win 45 games without an all-star on the roster. So that's on and popping. But if he really wants to make a splash, he should go to the Lakers. He should play with LeBron James, and they should try to coax Kyrie Irving out to the coast. And we still haven't talked about Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
If Kawhi Leonard and Anthony Davis go to the Lakers, look out, man. And the Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets have the kind of salary cap room that they can land 2 of those big dogs. So I'm looking at the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers as the 2 biggest players. I'm not sure that the New York Knicks are going to be able to grab a couple of those marquee players just because of the record of futility that franchise has had since guys like Patrick Ewing and Pat Riley left town.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see how this all plays out, Cedric, because, well, I mean, here in Oklahoma City, and you've dealt with the Spurs over the years too, in your neck of the woods, pretty quiet. Nobody says anything in Thunderland when it comes to this sort of stuff. So even something like talk that Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram are out there available in the trade market, which, you know, pretty much everybody knows, but yet at the same time, to hear that, if you're those 2 guys, and what if one of them ends up being there again next year? It just feels like, you know, the same thing that happened when, you know, the Pelicans were trying to work a deal potentially for Anthony Davis, and basically the whole Laker locker room was essentially told in one way or another, you're expendable. We could get rid of you. You're not worth keeping. I mean, it just made everything just completely obliterated any chance at chemistry that team had. And here we are again with the, you know, somebody in the Lakers organization, you know, letting this go, getting it out there to somebody. So it's just what you said earlier, Cedric, the mess that the Lakers are absolutely on display again. And then I also think it's interesting that the Celtics have said that they're still in pursuit of Anthony Davis. They haven't sort of thrown up their hands and say there's no way to possibly land this guy. I think it all harkens back to the Thunder getting Paul George and retaining Paul George. the Raptors getting Kawhi Leonard and potentially retaining Kawhi Leonard. These teams now see, hey, if we can get these guys, maybe we can keep them. So why not? Why wouldn't Danny Ainge say, let's see if we can get Anthony Davis, convince him it's pretty cool to play in Boston, play for the Celtics, play in Boston Gardens, and although it's not Boston Gardens anymore, but play with such a historic team where you're going to be beloved. Maybe they think they can keep him. I think it all sort of interrelates, Cedric, and it's wildly interesting. The guys we talked about, Ball, Ingram, Kyrie, and AD, I don't think any of them are with the teams that they're on right now. I think all of them are playing with different teams. And so what you said earlier about a huge free agent class, absolutely. I have no idea where all the pieces land, but I think a lot of guys are going to be with new teams after all this ends.
I think so too, and there might be a couple that stay. I'm just so intrigued if Kawhi Leonard wins a championship with the Toronto Raptors and leaves town. How is that going to play? No NBA Finals MVP has ever left the following year in free agency. So I think that he might be tempted, but I know from what I've read and from people I've talked to that kid wants back in LA. He's from LA. He's a West Coast guy. He's got all the money that he could ever want, and he loves what he's doing. He just wants to do it at home. I would be really intrigued if he goes and wins a championship, which I think that they will, Jen. They're going to win one of these next two games and then leaves. He's going to be – I don't know that he'll be hated in Canada, but I know they won't be happy because Moses led them to the promised land and then bailed.
I don't know if they can renounce his passport so he can't get back in when if his new team has to play the Raptors, but maybe that's what the Canadians would do. Speaking of Canadians not being nice, that might be the ultimate diss. But hey, let's talk about one coming and going that we know for sure here before we get out of here, and that's Lindsay Gottlieb. She coached the Cal women's basketball team for the last few years. She's headed to Cleveland to be on the Cavs staff, and Cedric, Becky Hammond down there in San Antonio, we've seen how great she's been and how much Greg Popovich believes in her. She's been elevated throughout her years there. There's been talk that maybe one day she would be a head coach, but here comes Lindsay Gottlieb to join John Beilein's staff, former college coach in Beilein, another college coach, but never before has a women's college basketball coach, a female, come onto an NBA staff. Cedric, it just feels like a matter of time before there's a team out there that's hiring one of these women to be their head coach. I don't think it's going to be that long.
I don't either. And at the end of the day, Jen, ball is ball.
Exactly.
I don't care how you get dressed. I don't care what your undergarments are, be it a T-shirt or a bra. If you know ball, you know ball. And Greg Popovich jumped on this thing immediately because he understands that Becky Hammond was a basketball savant who studied the game like no one else. Lindsay Gottlieb is also a basketball student. Swin Cash just got hired as a VP of basketball operations. Was it the Pelicans? Is it New Orleans?
Yep, exactly.
One of those teams. So people are recognizing that basketball wasn't invented for men to play. Basketball was invented to be played. And it doesn't really matter what your chromosome, whatever that is, what your DNA is. You know ball. You should be paid to coach ball. Men, women, whatever, indifferent. I love the fact that women are finally getting an opportunity to show their versatility and their genius in the greatest basketball league in the world. These coaches aren't doing it to make some kind of PR statement. Popovich did not do that for political reasons. He understands that Becky Hammond can help him win basketball games. And that's what I think that the Cavs are doing with Lindsay Gottlieb. Yeah. I'm glad that it's happening. I hope it keeps happening. And just like you said, Jen, I think there's going to be in the next 10 years, there will be a female head coach in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't even think it's going to be that long. I think we're looking at maybe 5 because you look at how quickly these Spurs assistants have made their way into head coaching jobs. I think that Greg Popovich is so respected around the NBA. It just feels like and not to say that it might not be somebody else, but I think we're talking about a head coach, that'll happen. I think a GM, which it's interesting to me to see all these other pro leagues, how they've struggled. Look at Major League Baseball. They have struggled for years to get women into front offices. It's just a handful of women that are even in assistant GM type of roles in Major League Baseball. And yet the NBA is surging with coaches, front office staff, still in the realm of first ever. But it won't be long before we're not doing many first evers anymore. I think we're going to see a lot of these barriers knocked down by the NBA, and it's so interesting to see this happening, how many teams have stepped out and hired who they think are the best people for these jobs that will make their staffs, will make their front offices the best they can be. So I applaud the Cavs. I applaud the Pelicans. You bring up Swin Cash, Cedric. I think it's great. I think it's going to be awesome to see how all of these new hires do. I mean, there's a lot of them, and it's going to be interesting to see how all the NBA shakes out. We're going to have a scorecard to keep all of this straight after free agency this next summer. But we'll do it. We'll do it here on the Writer's Block, so be sure to come back with us next week. Who knows? Maybe we'll know a bunch by then and we can talk about it then. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.